In 1979, an American science fiction horror film called Alien was produced by Riley Scott and hit the big screen. Sigourney Weaver starred in this film. Alien, the movie, received an Academy Award, 2 Saturn Awards, and a Hugo Award. It was inducted into the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress in 2002 for historical preservation as a film which is culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Has anyone ever stopped to think who the aliens were in this movie? Think about it. We went to its planet, and yet we readily accepted the outrageous notion that it was the alien. The same holds true with our neighbors to the south. In general, American society has no real grasp of its own history, specifically Southwest history and the indigenous people who are now referred to as alien. In this film, we hope to enlighten, educate, and theorize about current immigration policy, state legislation, and fear-mongering that has placed these indigenous aliens in the crosshairs.
Our expedition this semester was centered around the contentious issue of immigration. We studied the history of immigration and learned much about contrasting the differences between Angel Island and Ellis Island. We narrowed our expedition to focus the U.S.-Mexican border. We studied the pull and the push of immigrants. The push is the reason people leave their country, such as war, famine, policy, and economic status. The pull is what attracts immigrants, such as jobs, family members, and a better life for their children. One example of policy that we studied in depth was NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Immigration from Mexico increased dramatically after the passage of NAFTA. This is why, from 1993 to 2003, productivity rose 30% in Mexico, while wages dropped 9% since NAFTA. Rural Mexicans living in poverty rose from 54% to 81.5%. NAFTA actually trumped Article 27 of Mexican Constitution that gave rights to poor people to occupy government or privately owned land in order to farm for self-sustainment and to sell produce in a local marketplace. Article 27 was a right won to Mexican Revolution. Many of the rural farmers had to leave. Where do you think they went?
We decided to go to Arizona, being that state is on the front line of the immigration debate. We hope to gain 360-degree view of the issues. We interviewed federal judges, prosecutors, U.S. Marshals, Border Patrol agents, as well as Native Americans and humanitarian agencies. We toured the second largest Border Patrol station in the nation. They described how looking for people coming to the country illegally is much like hunting and tracking wild game. They showed us the processing center and their large stockpile of weapons. The agent did concede that over 90% of the Americans are immigrants are merely poor people looking for work and give up without resistance. They described the enormous cost of Operation Gatekeeper and admitted that the multi-billion-dollar wall is easily defeated by a $10 ladder. Since the year 1904, 130 Border Patrol agents have died in the line of duty. Migrant deaths along the U.S.-Mexican border occurs hundreds of times a year. More than 2,000 people have died crossing the border between 1998 and 2004. In 2009 alone, there was 500 deaths on the border. We also visited Frontera de Cristo, a humanitarian aid organization. We did some service work for this organization. We interviewed a couple from Idaho who volunteered. Frontera de Cristo.
So you can see here, this is the man who was found, and they don't know who he is, so it says varón no identificado. And there's a lot of them that say this because only bones are found. And I will tell you, on January 30th this year, the people in Ajo that go out and take water out into the desert and do runs, two of the men found the bones of a man. They found his skull and bones. However, his clothes were still around, and there was identification in the clothes. So when they turned all this in, they asked, please try to find this man's parents. And they did find him. His name is Trinidad Ayala. And Trinidad, the parents had crossed on October 26th, 2014, and they never heard from him again. And where he was found was about 25 miles north of the border, and it's going through that desert area where Arden Pipe Cactus National Monument up to Cabeza Prieta, and that's where he was found. And that is solid desert. In the summer, you've got to worry about snakes and scorpions, but otherwise it is so hot. So he was 26 years old.
The Tohono O'odham people have lived in the Sonoran Desert for centuries, living through 4 nations: the Indian, Spanish, Mexican, and now the U.S. Once the Americans occupied the Southwest, a new border was created. The border split the tribe 2/3 in Mexico and 1/3 in Arizona. The O'odham people in Arizona can visit the O'odham people in Mexico, but not the other way around. The O'odham people have gone to the United Nations to ask for passage back and forth from their lands and reunification of their lands. The Tohono O'odham Reservation is the most militarized reservation in the U.S. because it's on the border of Mexico. The native people are frequently stopped and searched by the United States Border Patrol on their own land without probable cause. There are drones frequently flying over the reservation looking for activity. Most of the 25,000 Tohono O'odham live in southern Arizona, but there are many more that live in the northern Sonoran Desert, northern Mexico. The O'odham were denied dual citizenship across their land in 1853 by the Godsend Purchase.
Today I say, as long as this gate is closed, as long as this scar of a wall is permitted to stand, it is not the German question alone that remains open, but the question of freedom for all mankind. There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
So we can use the materials to build one over here.
Operation Gatekeeper was another law passed to double the border control agents and put up a wall from the Gulf to California. This cost the taxpayers billions of dollars and is easily defeated by a $10 ladder, as explained to us by the U.S. Border Control.
His panic has resulted in an outright assault on brown people when the term illegal immigrant is used. Mexican is the first thing that comes to mind to most in U.S. society. Russians, Irish, and other Europeans have no fear of apprehension. They are not even part of the debate, and Mexicans are indigenous. Immigration policy is inherently racist. Hate speeches by elected officials is particularly disturbing. Some claim that hate speech is what got Congresswoman Giffords shot along with a 9-year-old girl. But why didn't it make national news when 9-year-old Presenia Iana Flores, her father, 29-year-old Raul Flores Jr., and mother Gina Gonzalez were all shot execution style as they pled for their lives? They were all U.S.-born citizens and murdered by white supremacists. Gina did survive.
For the first 200 years, this nation, via institutionalized racism, destroyed black families, selling off husbands and children, treating them like cattle and beasts of burden. For the last 100 years, the new beasts of burden are brown people from south of the border. The current policy, institutionalized racism, also calls for the destruction, separation, and criminalization of brown families. And like slavery, this too will be yet another disgraceful chapter in our American history books.
Revitalize, not militarize.
We want legitimate reform now.